June stood at the edge of what used to be the National Museum of Korea. Now it was just rubble. 30 years had passed since the Dominion ships first appeared in the sky. 30 years since they claimed to come in peace. 29 years since they showed their true colors. He kicked at a piece of stone, once part of a beautiful building that held his people's history. June was only a child when the aliens came, but he remembered how it was before. His father was a historian who loved to bring him here. "This is who we are," his father would say. "These objects tell our story." Now those objects were gone. The Dominion had destroyed them all. They did not want humans to remember who they were. June pulled his hood lower as a Dominion patrol hovered by. Their ships were small and quick, with scanners that could detect human body heat. He pressed himself against a wall and held his breath. The patrol passed without stopping. They were not looking very hard today. That was good. His small bag held his most valuable possession, a book. A real paper book that had belonged to his father. The Dominion had burned most books or changed them to tell lies about human history. This book was hidden under the floorboards of their home when the aliens took his parents to the re-education center. 10 years ago now. He had not seen them since. The sun was setting. June needed to get back to the safe house before curfew. Any human caught outside after dark was taken to the labor camps. He hurried through back alleys, careful to avoid the cameras on main streets. He was nearly there when he heard the scream. June should have kept walking. That was the rule. Do not get involved. Do not try to help. That was how they caught you. But he turned toward the sound instead. In a narrow space between two buildings, 3 Dominion guards surrounded a woman. She was fighting them, which was unusual. Most humans were too afraid to fight back. The aliens were tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to change color slightly to match their surroundings. Their faces had no noses, just breathing slits, and their 4 eyes could see in all directions. They held shock sticks, weapons that could make a human's muscles stop working. The woman kicked one guard in the joint of its leg, where they were weakest. The alien fell with a high-pitched whine. The other 2 moved in closer. Without thinking, John picked up a metal pipe from the ground and ran forward. He swung it hard at the head of the nearest guard. There was a crack, and blue fluid spurted out. The alien dropped. The 3rd guard turned all 4 eyes toward June. It raised its arm to call for backup. The woman moved fast. She pulled something from her boot, a real weapon, a human gun. Those were very rare and very illegal. She fired once, and the guard fell. "Run," she said, grabbing June's arm. They ran together through the maze of ruined buildings. She seemed to know where she was going, taking turns without hesitation. After 10 minutes of running, she stopped at what looked like a dead end. "They will find us," June said, breathing hard. "They can track us by our body heat." "Not where we're going," the woman said. She pushed aside some trash to reveal a metal door set into the ground. She entered a code on a hidden panel, and the door slid open. "Get in." June hesitated. He did not know this woman. "They will be looking for you now," she said. "You helped me. That means you're dead if they find you. So get in." June climbed down the ladder into darkness. The woman followed, closing the door above them. Lights came on automatically. They were in a tunnel, old and dusty but clearly maintained. Pipes ran along the ceiling. "This way," the woman said, walking quickly down the tunnel. "I'm Hannah, by the way." "June. You're either very brave or very stupid, June." "I don't know which." Hannah almost smiled. "Honest. I like that." After walking for what felt like an hour, they reached another door. Hannah entered another code, and it opened to reveal a large room filled with people. Real people, not the empty-eyed humans who worked for the Dominion in the cities. The room had been part of the old subway system, but now it was a living space. Tables, chairs, beds along the walls. Lights powered by humming generators. Maps and papers covered one wall. Weapons, actual weapons, were stacked in a corner. "Welcome to the Resistance," Hannah said. An older man approached them. "Who's this?" "He saved me from a patrol," Hannah said. Took down a guard with a pipe. The man looked at June with new interest. "I'm Min, former diplomat, current pain in the Dominion's backside." "I'm June, former nothing, current nothing." "Everyone is something," Min said. "What did you do before today?" "I survived. I kept hidden. I read books when I could find them." Min's eyebrows went up. "Books? Real ones?" Jun hesitated, then opened his bag and took out his father's book. Min's eyes widened. "A history of pre-industrial Korea," Min said, reading the cover. This is valuable, Jun. The Dominion has destroyed almost all our history. They want us to believe we were nothing before they came." "My father was a historian," Jun said. "He told me to never forget who we were." Min looked at Hannah. "I think we found what we needed." Hannah nodded. "Come with me," she said to Jun. "There's someone you should meet." She led him to a side room where a woman sat surrounded by computer parts. She was taking apart what looked like Dominion technology. "Sue, this is Jun. He has knowledge of our history." The woman looked up. She had clever eyes and quick hands that never stopped moving. "History won't help if I can't get this transmitter working." "It might," Hannah said. "We need to understand who we were to know what the Dominion is trying to hide." A loud alarm suddenly blared through the room. Everyone moved at once, grabbing weapons and equipment. "What's happening?" Jun asked. "Raid alarm," Hannah said, handing him a small gun. "One of our other safe houses must have been found. We need to move." "Where?" "There's a network of these places. Old tunnels, bunkers, forgotten places. We stay moving." They joined the flow of people heading deeper into the tunnel system. June felt lost but followed Hannah closely. They walked for hours through the darkness. Finally, they emerged in another large room, similar to the first, but in worse condition. "Home sweet home," Hannah said. "For now." An older man approached them. His face was scared, and he walked with a limp. "We lost the eastern safe house," he said, "but most got out. We also recovered something from the last raid." He handed Hannah a small device. "What is it?" June asked. "Dominion data storage," Hannah said. "Sue's been trying to crack them for months. They might tell us what the Dominion is planning." Sue took the device and connected it to her equipment. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "I need time," she said. "Time is something we don't have," Min said, joining them. "The Dominion is implementing something called Final Solution. We don't know what it is, but they're moving humans to new facilities." "Like the re-education centers?" Jun asked, thinking of his parents. "Worse," Hannah said. "No one comes back from these places." Sue suddenly gasped. "I got in," she said. "And it's bad." They gathered around her screen. June could not understand the alien writing, but the images were clear. Human DNA being altered. Babies in tanks. Generation after generation shown changing, becoming less human. "They're not trying to kill us," Sue said quietly. "They're trying to erase us. Turn us into something else. Something that serves them." "How long?" Min asked. "The process has already started. Within 3 generations, humans will be not human anymore." The room fell silent. June felt sick. "There's something else," Sue said, still reading. "They destroyed our history because they feared it, especially our technological progress. They saw where we were headed." "Where was that?" Hannah asked. "Becoming more advanced than them," Sue said. "They're not as advanced as they want us to think. They just got here first." Min turned to June. "Now you see why your knowledge matters. If we can find our past, we might find our future." "There's more," Sue said. "According to this, there's a complete archive of human knowledge. The Dominion didn't destroy everything. They kept copies." "Why would they do that?" June asked. "Know your enemy," Hannah said. They study us to control us better. Where is this archive? Min asked. Sue pointed to a map. Under the old city. In a facility they think we don't know about. Hana looked at June. Want to help us steal back our history. June thought of his father's words. These objects tell our story. Yes, he said. When do we start? Hana checked her weapon. Now. The tunnels beneath the old city were cold and wet. June followed Hana and Min as they moved quietly through the darkness. 6 other resistance fighters came with them. Each carried weapons and supplies. How much further? June whispered. About 2 kilometers, Hana said. The archive is under what used to be Seoul National University. June nodded. His father had taught there long ago. They reached a junction where 3 tunnels met. Min looked at a hand-drawn map. This way, he said, pointing to the right tunnel. As they walked, June moved closer to Hana. How did you join the resistance? I was military before the invasion, she said. They put me in a re-education center. I escaped after 3 years. What did they do there? June asked, thinking of his parents. Hana's face hardened. They try to remake you. Make you forget who you are. Make you love them. She touched a small scar on her temple. I pretended it worked. Then I killed 2 guards and ran. They fell silent as they approached a metal door. It was marked with Dominion symbols. This is it, Min said. He turned to a man carrying electronic equipment. Ta, can you get us in? Ta stepped forward. He was older than the others, with steady hands and focused eyes. He studied the door's control panel. It's a standard Dominion lock, he said. I can bypass it, but it will alert their security system. How long will we have? Hana asked. 10 minutes, maybe less. Min looked at everyone. Quick in, quick out. Grab all the data storage devices you can find. Tag connected his equipment to the door panel. Lights blinked, and the door slid open. Inside was a large room filled with alien technology. The walls were lined with glowing storage units. This is it, Min said. The history they stole from us. They spread out, filling their bags with small data crystals and storage devices. June stared at the vast collection. All of human knowledge, stored away like it was nothing. June, help me with this, Hana called. She was trying to disconnect a large central unit. June hurried over and helped her lift it. This is the main index, she explained. Without it, all those data crystals are just random information. Suddenly, alarm sounds filled the room. Red lights flashed on the walls. That's not good, Ta said. They know we're here. How much time do we have? Min asked. None, Ta replied. They're coming now. Hana took charge. Everyone out. Back tunnel. Move. They ran for the exit, carrying as much as they could. June and Hana struggled with the heavy central unit between them. Tai was the last one out. He sealed the door behind them and did something to the control panel. That will slow them down, he said. Not for long. They ran through the tunnels, the sound of Dominion patrols echoing behind them. At a 4-way junction, Min stopped. We need to split up, he said. Make it harder for them to follow. Hana nodded. 2 teams. Meet at the eastern safe house. Half the group went left with Min. Hana, June, Tai, and 1 other fighter went right. They moved as fast as they could with their heavy load. The tunnel grew narrower and darker. We're almost to the old subway lines, Hana said. We'll be safer there. A noise ahead made them freeze. Dominion soldiers appeared around a corner, weapons raised. Down, Hana shouted, dropping to the ground. June fell, still holding the central unit. Energy blasts flew over their heads. The fighter behind them fired back, but a blast hit him in the chest. He fell without a sound. Todd pulled a small device from his pocket and threw it toward the Dominion soldiers. There was a flash of bright light and a high-pitched sound. The aliens screamed in pain, their sensitive eyes and ears hurt by the blast. Run, Ta shouted. They got up and ran past the stunned aliens. One grabbed at Jun's leg, but he kicked free and kept moving. They reached the subway lines and climbed onto an old platform. Ta led them through a hidden door into a small room filled with resistance equipment. "We should be safe here for now," he said, closing the door behind them. Jun and Hannah set down the central unit. They were both breathing hard. "Will the others make it?" Jun asked. "Min knows what he's doing," Hannah said. "He's been fighting the Dominion longer than anyone." Ta began connecting the central unit to their computers. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "If we can access this, we'll have everything," he said. "All the knowledge the Dominion didn't want us to have." Hours passed as Tai worked. Jun and Hannah took turns watching the door. Finally, Tai called them over. "I'm in," he said. "It's all here. Our history, our science, our art, everything." Jun looked at the screen. It showed thousands of files, organized by time and subject. "Look at this," Ta said, opening a file. "Research on faster-than-light travel. From before the invasion. Were we really that advanced?" Jun asked. "We were getting there," Ta said. "Look at the date. This research was from just 2 years before they came." Hannah's eyes narrowed. "Is that why they invaded? They saw what we were becoming." "Maybe," Ta said. "There's more. Medical research, energy production, artificial intelligence." The door opened, and they all turned, weapons ready. But it was Min and the others, looking tired but alive. "You made it," Hannah said, relieved. Min nodded. "Lost 2 people. Dominion patrols are everywhere." He noticed the active computer. "You got it working?" "Yes," Ta said. "And you need to see this." He showed Min what they had found. Min's face grew serious. "This changes everything," he said. "If humans were this close to major technological breakthroughs, the Dominion had a reason to fear us. But why not just destroy all this?" Jun asked. "Why keep it?" "Knowledge is power," Min said. "They want to understand what we knew." A young woman stepped forward from Min's group. It was Sue, the computer expert Jun had met earlier. "Let me see," she said, taking Ta's place at the computer. She worked quickly, digging deeper into the files. After a few minutes, she gasped. "There's more," she said. "The Dominion. They're refugees." "What?" Hannah asked. "According to these files, our scientists detected signals from space before the invasion. They decoded them. The Dominion were running from something. Another alien species that defeated them in a war. They came here to hide." Jun asked. "And to rebuild," Sue said. "They needed resources, labor. They needed a planet with people advanced enough to be useful, but not advanced enough to fight back." Min looked troubled. "So they're not as powerful as they want us to think." "No," Sue said. "And there's something else. Something about Earth is special to them. Something we have that they need." Before she could explain, an explosion shook the room. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They found us," Hannah said, grabbing her weapon. "Save the data," Min ordered. Sue quickly transferred files to portable devices. Ta disconnected the central unit. "There's a way out through the old maintenance tunnels," Hannah said, pointing to a small door at the back of the room. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. "Go," Min said. "I'll hold them off." "No," Hannah argued. "We all go." "Someone has to slow them down," Min said firmly. "This information must reach our other cells." Jun saw the determination in Min's eyes. This was a man ready to die for what he believed in. "Thank you," Jun said to him. Min smiled slightly. "Make it worth it. Show the Dominion what humans can do." They left Min with half the weapons. Hannah led them through the maintenance tunnel as sounds of fighting erupted behind them. After an hour of moving through dark, narrow spaces, they emerged in an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city. "Where now?" Jun asked. "The processing facility," Hannah said. "It's our biggest target, And now we have a reason to hit it. We're going to attack the Dominion, June asked, surprised. Hannah's eyes were hard but hopeful. No, we're going to show them who we really are. Ta nodded. With what we learned today, I can build weapons that will hurt them. Sue held up her data device, and I can use their own networks against them. June looked at these brave people who had fought so long against impossible odds. For the first time since the invasion, he felt something new. Not just anger, not just fear, but hope. When do we start? He asked. Hannah checked her weapon and smiled slightly. We already have. 3 weeks had passed since they took the knowledge from the Dominion archive. The Resistance had moved to an old underground train repair facility. The large space was filled with people working on different tasks. Some built weapons. Others studied the stolen information. All had the same look in their eyes. Determination. June sat with Ta, helping him take apart Dominion technology. Ta had discovered ways to use their own weapons against them. Hand me that tool, Ta said, pointing to a small metal object. June passed it to him. Will it work? It has to, Ta replied. He was changing a Dominion energy gun to work for human hands. With these, we can fight back. Across the room, Sue worked at a table covered with computers. She had been studying the data from the archive day and night. Hannah walked over to her, carrying food. You need to eat, Hannah said, placing a bowl next to Sue. I'm close to something, Sue said, her eyes never leaving the screen. Something big. What is it? The real reason the Dominion came to Earth. Sue looked up at Hannah. It's not just because they were running away from enemies. They need something from Earth, something only our planet has. Before she could explain, a man rushed into the room. Hannah, we caught someone trying to enter the East Tunnel. Hannah followed him to a small side room. June and Ta came too. Inside, 2 Resistance fighters held a man on his knees. The man wore the clean clothes of a human who worked for the Dominion. He says he wants to talk to the leader, one fighter said. I am Yoon, the man said, looking up at Hannah. I work in the Central Command building. I have information for you. Why would you help us? Hannah asked, her voice hard. You work for them. Not by choice, Yoon said. I was taken in the first wave. They changed me, made me serve them. But the changes are wearing off. Many of us are, remembering who we are. Hannah studied him. What information? The Overseer Krall has ordered a new operation. They call it Purge. They will attack all suspected Resistance locations tomorrow. They know more than you think. How do we know this isn't a trap? Tai asked. Yoon reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out a small device. This has the attack plans. Times, locations, numbers. Take it. Hannah nodded to one of the fighters who took the device. Why are you really here, Yoon? I had a family once, he said quietly. A wife, a son. I want to remember them. I want to be human again. Something in his eyes made June believe him. Take him to the medical area, Hannah ordered. Have Jay look at him. As the fighters led Yoon away, Sue rushed into the room. I found it, she said, her eyes wide with excitement. I know what they need from Earth. They followed her back to her computers. On the screen was a chemical formula. This compound, Sue explained. It's rare in the galaxy but common on Earth. It's in our soil, our water. The Dominion need it to survive. Why? June asked. Their home world was dying. This compound was running out. Without it, they get sick and die. Earth has more of it than any planet they found. Tai studied the formula. Can we use this against them? Yes, Sue said. We can change it, make it poison to them, but safe for us. Hannah's eyes lit up. A weapon that only hurts the Dominion. I'll need equipment, chemicals, Sue said. The processing facility, Ta suggested. It has everything we need. That's their most guarded location, Hannah warned. Then we need to get inside, Jun said. What about Yoon? Could he help us? The plan came together quickly. Yoon would help June and Sue pose as human workers at the processing facility. Once inside, they would get the chemicals Sue needed and plant devices to let Ta hack into their systems. "It's dangerous," Hannah said when they finished planning. "Everything is dangerous now," Jun replied. The next day, Jun found himself wearing the clean uniform of a Dominion worker. Sue stood beside him, looking uncomfortable in similar clothes. Yoon led them toward the massive processing facility in the center of the city. "Walk with purpose," Yoon instructed. "Don't make eye contact with the Dominion, only with other humans." Guards stopped them at the entrance. Yoon showed his ID card. "New workers for Section 5, he explained. The guards scanned them with a device. Jun held his breath. The false IDs Sue had created had to work. After a tense moment, the guards waved them through. Inside, the facility was enormous. Machines hummed everywhere. Human workers moved about like empty shells, their eyes vacant. "This way," Yoon whispered, leading them down a long corridor. They reached a large room filled with chemicals and equipment. "This is it," Sue said. "I need samples of everything." As Sue gathered what she needed, Jun placed small devices on the walls. These would let Tai access the facility's systems later. "Hurry," Yoon said, watching the door nervously. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed on the walls. "What's happening?" Jun asked. "The attack," Yoon realized. "They moved it up. They're hitting resistance locations now." "Hannah," Jun said, fear filling him. "The others." "We need to finish here," Sue insisted, still gathering samples. "This is our only chance." 2 more minutes, Jun decided. "Then we leave." Sue worked quickly, filling her bag with containers. Jun placed the last device on a main control panel. Heavy footsteps approached. "Hide," Yoon hissed. They ducked behind large containers as the door opened. A tall Dominion figure entered, taller than any Jun had seen before. Its skin was darker gray, and it wore elaborate armor. "Overseer Kral," Yoon whispered, his voice tight with fear. 4 guards followed Kral into the room. They spoke in their clicking language. "What are they saying?" Jun asked very quietly. "The raids are successful," Yoon translated. "They found 2 resistance bases." Jun's heart sank. Had they found their main base? Was Hannah safe? Kral walked to a container and removed a vial of glowing blue liquid. He pressed it to his neck, and the liquid flowed into his body. His gray skin brightened slightly. "The compound," Sue whispered. "That's it." They injected directly. Kral and the guards left after a few minutes. Yoon checked the corridor. "Clear," he said. "We need to go now." They hurried through the facility, trying to look like they belonged. At the exit, guards were checking everyone more carefully. "There's another way," Yoon said, leading them down a side passage. "Waste disposal." They reached a large room where garbage was loaded onto trucks. The smell was terrible. Yoon pointed to a truck about to leave. "Get in the back. It goes to the dumping grounds outside the city." "What about you?" Jun asked. "I'll stay," Yoon said. "I can help more from inside." "Go." Jun and Sue climbed into the back of the truck, hiding among the trash. The truck rumbled, then began to move. After an uncomfortable hour, the truck stopped. They heard the driver get out. When all was quiet, they climbed out. They were at a large garbage dump outside the city walls. In the distance, smoke rose from several locations. "The raids," Jun said, his voice breaking. "We need to get back." They walked for hours, staying hidden, until they reached the old subway tunnel entrance. Inside, they found chaos. Injured resistance fighters filled the tunnels. Some cried. Others sat in shocked silence. "What happened?" Jun asked an injured man. "They hit us everywhere," he said. "They knew all our locations." "Hannah?" Jun asked. "Ta." "Medical area." The man pointed down the tunnel. Jun ran, Sue following. They found Ta treating wounded fighters. June, Ta said when he saw them. You made it. Where's Hana? June asked. Tae's face darkened. They took her. The Dominion has her. The words hit June like a physical blow. No. She was leading the defense, Tai explained. She made sure most people got out, but they surrounded her. We have to get her back, June said immediately. We will, Sue promised, holding up her bag of samples. And now we have a way. Ta looked at the bag. You got it. Everything we need, Sue confirmed. I saw how they use it too. They inject it directly. Then we can poison their supply, Ta said. June's mind raced. And we have devices inside their main facility. We have something else too, Ta said. He led them to a small room where several screens showed Dominion buildings. Your devices work. We can see inside their facilities now. On one screen, Jum saw a prison cell. Hannah sat inside, bruised but alive. We'll get her out, Jun said. And then we'll show the Dominion who they're really dealing with. Sue put her hand on his shoulder. We're not just fighting for survival anymore, Jun. No, he agreed. Now we're fighting to win. 3 days had passed since Hannah's capture. The resistance had moved to a new location, an old underground parking garage. Ta and Sue worked day and night on their plan. Jun watched the screens showing the inside of the Dominion main building. On one screen, he could see Hannah in her cell. She was still alive but looked weaker each day. We need to move soon, he said to Ta. Almost ready, Tae replied. He was building devices that would release the modified compound into the Dominion's air systems. The compound wouldn't harm humans, but it would make the Dominion very sick. Sue worked at her computer. I've mapped their security systems. We can get in through the lower levels. A woman Jun didn't know approached them. She wore clean clothes and carried herself like a soldier. You must be Jun, she said. I'm Era. Era is from a hidden colony to the north, Tai explained. They've been fighting the Dominion for years. We heard about your plan, Era said. We want to help. How many are you? Jun asked. 200 fighters, and we have weapons you haven't seen before. Era showed them a small device that looked like a gun, but without a barrel. This disrupts their communication systems, she explained. Without it, they can't coordinate. Jun looked at Ta. This changes our plan. It makes it better, Tai agreed. We can do more than just rescue Hana. We can take down their whole command structure. The new plan came together quickly. Era's fighters would attack 3 Dominion outposts around the city as a distraction. Meanwhile, Jun, Tai, and Sue would enter the main building to rescue Hana and release the modified compound into the air system. What about their leader? Sue asked. Overseer Krull. Leave him to me, Jun said. The night before the attack, Jun couldn't sleep. He sat looking at his father's book. So much had changed since he was just trying to stay hidden and survive. Your father would be proud, a voice said. Jun looked up. It was Yoon, the Dominion worker who had helped them. You escaped? Jun asked. I slipped away during a shift change, Yoon said. I have news. The Dominion High Commander is coming. High Commander? Vex. He leads all Dominion forces everywhere. He's coming to deal with the human problem personally. This was big news. When? Tomorrow. He'll arrive at the main building in the morning. Jun stood up. This changes things. We can take out their entire leadership at once. Vex is dangerous, Yoon warned. He's survived many wars. So have we, Jun said. One more night, and we make them pay for everything. Morning came. The resistance fighters prepared their weapons. Era's people distributed their special devices. Sue gave last-minute instructions. Remember, once we release the compound, all Dominion in the building will start getting sick. We'll have about 10 minutes before it affects them fully. Ta handed out masks. These will protect us, just in case. June checked his weapons one last time. He carried a gun, but also his father's book. It reminded him what they were fighting for. Era left with her fighters. Soon, they heard explosions from across the city. The distractions had begun. June, Ta, Su, and 10 other fighters entered the tunnel system. They moved quickly toward the main Dominion building. Security systems disabled, Su said, looking at her small computer. Yoon came through. They reached a service entrance. 2 Dominion guards stood there, but they looked confused, touching their communication devices that no longer worked. The fighters took them down quickly and quietly. Inside, they split into 3 groups. Su led a team to the central air system. Ta took another team to the control room. June and 3 others headed for the prison section. The halls were in chaos. Dominion soldiers ran in different directions, unable to communicate with each other. The attack on the outposts had worked perfectly. June's group reached the prison level. 2 guards stood outside Hannah's cell. They fired their weapons, but June and his team were faster. The guards fell. June opened the cell. Hannah looked up, her eyes widening. "Took you long enough," she said, her voice weak but still strong in spirit. "Had to make sure we got it right," June replied, helping her stand. An alarm sounded throughout the building. "That's the signal," June said. "Su has released the compound." They hurried back to the hallway. Already they could see Dominion soldiers moving slower, touching their throats and breathing openings. "Command center," Hannah said. "That's where they'll be." June nodded. They changed direction, heading for the top level. They met Tai on the way. "Control room is ours," he reported. "I've locked down all exits except the one we need." Together they fought their way up. The Dominion soldiers were getting weaker by the minute, but they still outnumbered the humans. Finally, they reached the command center doors. They were sealed shut. "Stand back," Ta said. He placed a small device on the door. "Cover your ears." The explosion blew the doors open. Inside, about 20 Dominion officials stood around a large table. At the head was Overseer Krull. Next to him stood a taller, darker Dominion with red markings on his armor. "High Commander Vex," Hannah whispered. The Dominion officials turned, reaching for weapons, but they moved slowly, already affected by the compound. "What have you done?" Krull demanded in broken human language. "We changed the rules," June answered. Vex stepped forward. Unlike the others, he seemed less affected by the compound. "You think this will stop us?" he said, his voice a harsh click translated by a device on his chest. "We conquered dozens of worlds before yours, and yet here we are," Hannah said. "Still fighting, still human." Vex made a sound like laughter. "For now, our ships are coming. More Dominion. Millions more." Su entered the room, her computer in hand. "No, they're not," she said. "I just sent a message using your own communication system. I told your fleet that Earth is contaminated, that the compound is poisoned." Vex's 4 eyes widened. "You lie." "No," Su said. "I also sent all the data we have on your species, your weaknesses, your needs. I sent it to every human resistance cell on Earth, and to the stars, on your own channels." "You've signed your death warrant," Krull hissed. "No," Jun said. "We've signed yours." Outside, they heard cheering. On the screens around the room, they could see humans taking control of the building. "It's happening all over the city," Ta said, checking his device. "The Dominion are falling." Vex suddenly lunged forward, a hidden weapon in his hand. He aimed at June. Hannah moved faster. Even weak from captivity, her military training took over. She fired once. Vex fell, blue blood pooling around him. Krull and the other officials backed away. "What happens now?" Krull asked, his voice shaking. June looked at Hannah. She nodded. "Now we make the rules," June said. "You will leave our planet. Those who can't, those who need the compound, will live by our terms." "And what terms are those?" Krull asked. You will help us rebuild what you destroyed, Hannah said. You will return our knowledge, our history. You will teach us your technology, Ty added. And you will never ever try to change who we are, June finished. 3 months later, June stood on a hill overlooking the city. The Dominion ships were leaving, one by one. Those who stayed behind worked under human supervision, helping to rebuild. Hannah joined him, watching the ships go. Do you think they'll come back? Not if they're smart, June said. Sue's message reached far. A whole galaxy knows what happens when you try to erase humanity. In the city below, the old museum was being rebuilt. June's father's book would have a place there, along with all the knowledge they had recovered. What now? Hannah asked. June looked up at the stars, thinking of all the worlds out there. Worlds the Dominion had mentioned. Worlds where other species lived. Now we go out there, he said, not to conquer, not to erase, but to make sure no one ever forgets who we are. Hannah smiled. They tried to erase us. Now we make the rules, June finished. In the distance, a new ship rose from what had been a Dominion facility. It was built with their technology, but designed by human hands. Its sides bore a simple message in many languages. Humanity remembers. Humanity survives. Humanity thrives. The first of many ships that would carry humans to the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals, ready to meet whatever waited beyond with the same spirit that had saved Earth. They had tried to erase humanity. They had failed. And now, the galaxy would know their story.